Hello, and welcome. In this video, welcome to everybody who hasn't been here before. Welcome to all the people that's new. If you've been here before, thank you so much for sticking around. Before I jump in, I just want to share that I did go into the office today. I left kind of early, but I went in just to make sure people didn't need anything from me. And per usual, they didn't need much, and I didn't make up things for them to need me for. I no longer solidify or curate my value through how much I offer people in the workplace. And to see myself go through that transition and to easily not overperform is a very, very, very nice thing. So I just wanted to share that. Anyway, what I'm discussing in this video is emotional regulation and how important it is if we want to manifest the lives that we choose, co-create, create the experiences that we want to have in our lives. If we want to get into that space to where we are attracting things more often than we are chasing things sometimes. Because I think from time to time, we'll still be caught up in chasing things, and then you notice and you're like, oh wait, maybe I should let that come to me. And sometimes the chase might actually work. So, we don't completely 100% get away from it, but you want to spend the majority of your time in a space to where you're attracting things into your life, opportunities, experiences, people, places, things like that, and as opposed to always running after it, right? So emotional regulation is so huge to me because in my experience, if you don't have your emotions under control, they tend to run your entire life. And so that's why relax and rest and relaxation is so important to me, is because until you rest and have relaxation, until you create those pockets of peace in your life, you don't even have the space to find the clarity to see that you're being dragged forward by everything that's happening around you. So it's like you get up in the morning, what are your thoughts first going to? Are they first going to what's wrong, what needs to be done, what I have to do, what I don't want to do, who's going to be looking for me, who's got to do this and who's got to do that, and all those things? That's your emotions pulling you forward. It's like you're dreading it almost. It's frustration, it's anxiety, it's annoyance. And I know this so well because I can think of like the first half of my adult life was completely ran by emotions. If I didn't have anything else, I had some emotions, right? People did something wrong. I was like, injustice. Everybody had to know about it. I had to share it. I had to act it out. I had to, bring it to everybody else. And then the latter part of that adulthood experience with emotion rested heavily in the anxiety space. And I talked about this before, but that was a terrible period of my life because everything was controlled by anxiety. So I always felt like I was doing something wrong, right? Oops, I didn't put on Do Not Disturb. Let me do that real quick because I just hate when I'm sitting there and, okay. And everything was controlled by anxiety, right? So if someone said they were upset with me, then I was guilty, and that emotion was pulling me forward. Then the whole day, I have this guilt sitting in the pit of my stomach. If someone said that, I did something to hurt their feelings, then I'm worried. What did I say? And it was always what was happening on the outside controlling all of the emotions that I was dealing with on a regular basis. The thing about emotions when they're not regulated, they color everything in your life. So there's almost no experiences you can have, no interactions you can have, and like no experiences, interactions, even conversations, even going to work, anything that you can do where there's not some overarching feeling that's sitting behind it, right? So if you're angry, then everything in your life plays out in that anger. Right? It's like that thing in that little movie, The Secret, that they made about a decade or so ago, when you get out of the bed and you stub your toe, and then it causes you annoyance and aggravation, and then everything for the rest of the morning is colored in annoyance and aggravation. When you are not emotionally regulated, you don't have control over your life. You don't have control over your day. Everything around you is controlling your day. Everything essentially has to go perfect, and in your eyes, whatever that perfection is, for you not to fall apart or to have an issue or to have a problem. And I think so often we get addicted to chaos, meaning that we're always looking for the next shoe to drop. We're always looking for the next thing to go wrong. We're always thinking things like, this is too good to be true. You'll hear terms like that people use. And in saying that sort of stuff, it's like we're welcoming things to happen in our lives that's going to take us off path at any given time. And I'm a strong believer that alignment is based on how well you have your nervous system regulated. And I was talking about this in the other video. When your nervous system is shot, you don't even have access to your intuition. You don't even know why you're making decisions and what you're making them, what place you're making them from. It's like everything has this cloud over it and you're completely scattered, right? And everything about the way that you're thinking is always about, what am I not getting right? What did I get wrong? How can I fix this? What do I need to do? And it's all reactive, reactive, reactive. And even if you want to get into the space where you're responding to life, you don't even have the ability to do it because your nervous system is haywire, your emotions are haywire, right? And most of this comes on by why I think rest and relaxation is so important. It's by being exhausted. It's by being drained and fatigued and overwhelmed. And if you don't know how to say no to people when they're asking you to do things, if you don't know how to pick and choose your battles, everything people come to you with does not have to be a battle for you. If you don't know how to ignore people when they have things to say about you, or things to say about your family, things to say about your kids, things to say about your life, your decisions, your choices, then you're always going to be wrapped up into whatever information is coming to you next. Even if you get online and you get on social media and everything someone can say in one of these comment sections, or either in a video, or you're on the wrong side of the internet, you taking in information that is completely contradictory to what you know to be the truth of the human experience, and you want to fight it constantly. To me, that's a symptom of being addicted to chaos. And so many times we just don't know that because we are raised in environments where everything is chaotic. Everything around us is always putting out fires here. Oh, the light bill's going to be late. Got to get that paid. Putting out fire, putting out a fire. So-and-so needs you. Somebody got to pick up their kids from the daycare. Blah, blah, blah. It's always something happening. And if you are accustomed to that, then you'll get comfortable in that space. And then you're not tapped into your own true feelings, your own true existence. This is why people always say meditation is so important. And a lot of people think meditation is based on stopping all your thoughts and making your brain not do anything. It's literally not. It's literally seeing yourself from a bird's eye view. Like when I get in my car in the morning, I'm going to take my daughter to school, then I'm going to go to the office or get coffee or whatever I'm doing that day. I bird's eye view myself being annoyed by bad drivers. Like I see it. And there was a time when I was in it. Like I was on the ground level of it. And everything that was happening on the road was happening to me, right? But when you get in a bird's eye view of these things, I allow myself to be annoyed by it. I'm like, look at this. This is nonsense. But at the same time, I'm watching myself from a bird's eye view interact with the road, as opposed to being in it and taking everything personally and acting like these drivers are doing this thing to me, right? And so that's what you have to do in your life. You have to get in a bird's eye view of it. If something calls you, or somebody calls you, or something comes up and you feel your body, I see this all the time. Like when I was getting out of the phases of having anxiety so much, I would see where my phone would ring and it would be certain people's names on a caller ID. And I would feel the anxiety raising up inside of me. There was a time when I didn't notice that because I was always in such a hyper emotional state that I didn't notice when my body was acting a certain way, when somebody was calling or certain information was being introduced to me. I had no idea. But when I got into the space where I started getting more breaks and creating more peace and kind of seeing my life from more of a bird's eye view, I could see when that call ID would show up and I'm like, look at that reaction my body has. It's like I'm no longer the body. I'm no longer experiencing everything firsthand. I'm now looking at it going, look at that. And then I'm not being mad about it, or I'm not trying to change it. I'm allowing that anxiety to be there. And I'm like, And then I'm making decisions based on that. So if it means I need to talk to that person less, or I need to disregard that phone call so that I can feel better and I can have a better regulated emotional experience, then that's something I might do. But if I don't even know that's happening, how can I address the issue? How can I do anything about it? And I saw this so much with like when my daughters were younger, I used to always, like, we have to do pickups and drop offs and stuff like that. And whenever it was certain people that came to pick them up and drop them off, I would just get all out of whack. And then I would get into anger. It was like it would go from anxiety to anger to being exhausted and fatigued, like in a matter of 15 minutes. I had no control over that process. I went through all of those little emotions in that quick period of time, right? And then so as I started doing more work and doing more practice, and I would honestly say for me, it was going to yoga more and taking more time with me and getting more space and taking walks and doing all these things that I knew would give me more space and more clarity. When I would go do the pickups and drop offs and I would see this happen, I would be like, look at that. Look at that emotion. I was like, look how it's gone from ranges. And this is the thing. The more you start to see it, it's like you shut it down. It's kind of like, what is that thing? It's like fog. You know when you're walking through fog and the closer you get to it, the more it dissipates? That's kind of like how watching your emotions react to things become. The closer you get to paying attention to them and keeping your eye on them, not from the personal experience of being the person experiencing it, but like watching how your human experience is reacting to it, the more it dissipates. And so what things that used to bother you before and things that used to jerk you around before, they no longer have power because now you're looking right at it. You're not like being caught up by it. You're not being dragged by it, right? And much of the time when we're dealing with a lack of emotional regulation, it's because we are not only are we not in charge of our days and we're not in charge of what we have going on, we don't feel like we have autonomy or agency in our lives. Because when we feel in charge or when we feel like we are in control and we're making decisions, and when I say control, I mean, the limited control that human beings do have. When we feel in charge and when we feel in control and like we're at the helm of our life, we're at the helm of our own ship, then we're more relaxed in that sense because we know that decisions are not being made that aren't beneficial for us. We're not going to be pushed into anything. We're not going to be dragged from one place to the other. And so that's why I think so many people, especially women, are always caught up on having more financial freedom and more financial stability on their own, because it truly is an outcome of wanting a more regulated emotional system. You have to worry less about someone else having this control and charge over you in your mind. This is what it's processing. So you decide, let me get in front of it and do it myself. But then there's a whole other things that come after that when you are thinking that you have to produce for yourself all the time by yourself too. Emotional regulation is another thing that also brings disease in the body. And I've seen this with personal situations, with family members, even with myself. The worse the anxiety got and the worse that I had control over my emotions, the more I was experiencing things like hip pains and back pains. I remember I went through like a whole 3-year period of having a very painful, sharp shooting pain in my hip. I didn't know where it came from, what it was, and how it even got there. But what I do know is that when I eliminated certain people, places, and things out of my life, and when I moved on from certain previous and historical situations that I no longer had control over and I had to learn to let go of, somehow it just disappeared. And what's so funny about things like that, you don't even notice that it's disappearing. Like you look up one day and you're just like, wait, what happened to that hip pain I used to have, right? And that's how things are happening in your life. I see a lot of women all the time talk about trying to lose weight and that they're eating right and they're exercising. But people don't realize is that when you lack emotional regulation, that stress that you're bringing to your body is completely holding you up from losing the weight you would normally be losing or getting into the physical health that you would normally be in, just because you're holding on to things so tightly. And so when you get those parts of yourself regulated and you're no longer like anxiety, like you're being pulled by this and pushed by that, you have to do this today. You have to fix this. You have to put out this fire. You're angry this moment. You're sad the next moment. You're depressed another moment. You're fatigued the next moment. And you don't have a handle on it so that you can be more even keel and you can be more stable. Things like losing weight is even an uphill climb, right? Because I've seen it. I've seen people that were eating better than me, drinking water constantly and all this kind of stuff, going on regular walks and everything under the sun and still having trouble losing that weight. And then something will happen to where they have an extreme life change. They might have gotten divorced or either got laid off from a job that was always no good for them, a toxic environment or something. That extreme shift happens on the outside, and they start to get in a space where they have no choice but to regulate their emotions. And then you start to see where what was once really hard, it starts to be very easy. And that's almost with anything. I mentioned this on another video before, but I don't say it much because I don't want to jinx it, but I don't believe in jinx. But like, I haven't had like a cold, like a flu or whatever since I was about 19 years old, right? And that's over like 20 some odd years at this point. And I always say that because I don't know why, but my feelings and my thought behind it was that I spend a lot of time with anxiety, so maybe it's just not something that happens very much. But what I do know is that when you are not in a good space with your emotions and you are not regulating yourself, every little ailment that can happen to you will happen to you. Everything that can go wrong in your body will go wrong in your body. And you'll see that the more stress you're putting on yourself and the more that you run in the direction of where your emotions are pulling you, then you'll have those outcomes. What you got to remember about emotions is that they're like the clouds in the sky, and you might have heard this analogy before. They're always passing, right? So when I'm having a crummy day, I don't try to fix it all the time. I don't try to do anything. I don't even try to address it. Sometimes I just say, forget it, kaput. I'm going to go lay in a bed and just soak in this feeling in this moment and watch TV. It's not even my style, but I'm like, that's what I'm going to go do today. And what's so funny about it is when I give into it and say, I'm just going to let this emotion do its thing and let it pass, so I don't want to make any decisions to try to fix anything or do anything, then it passes by even faster. And it helps you with many times just in the future, you're no longer caught up in it because you don't think that this is so bad, this is so negative. Because the more you put labels on those emotions and get aggravated that they even exist, the more that they'll negatively impact you. Because sometimes it's okay to have the emotions, it's perfectly fine. But like, what is coming after that, right? When you get depressed and aggravated, what are you doing in your life after that? When you get angry, what are you doing after that? When you feel fatigued, what are you doing? When you get exhausted, what are you doing? When you get numb, right? What are you doing? And then all these things that we're doing to try to cope with it, as opposed to addressing the emotions head on, that's where we start to have major issues in ourselves. And I'm a firm believer that that's where disease comes from in the body. And I've seen this. If you ever get a chance to look at a book by Louise Hay called, I forget what it's called, but it's about the spiritual meanings behind ailments in your body. And so much, especially with women, of what we experience in our lives, like if we have a poor relationship with our children and we somehow haven't been able to fix that relationship, then we know that it's correlated directly with having like fibroid tumors and like cervical issues and like ovary issues. So it's like we have like a motherhood womb that shows up in those spaces, and also in tumors in the breast, things like that. And like if we have like what is it called, like a psychological issue or like mental or emotional abuse that was happening with our household when we were brought up, a lot of times that correlates with brain and neurological issues. So you have to just keep in mind that everything comes from something, and when your emotions are not intact, when you're not in front of them, they're gonna start running your life. And think about how quickly feelings change on a regular basis. You will not find any stability if that's what you're using as your anchor in life. You're using how you feel about everything all the time to make your decisions or how you're going to be every day. Some days you just have to decide, today I'm going to have a good day no matter what. Today I'm not going to let this thing bother me no matter what. And even if it does come around and bother you, you have to decide, well, even if it bothers me, like bring yourself all the way through the entire scenario. Even if I see this person and this person says this thing that I don't like and they purposely try to get under my skin, this is going to be my reaction. Sometimes we have in our minds that we should be able to control what's happening on the outside, and that's how we're going to address our emotional derailment deregulation, but that is not even possible. So what you can control is how you react to everything. And if you turn it into a response, you'll be better off. And what I find is most of the time when you are prepared and you are in that confidence and you're in that feeling, and you come across these people, places, and things that normally would rip you apart and bother you and make you feel like in ways that you don't want to feel. And you're like, if they say this, I'm not going to react. If they are who they are, if they're being exactly who they've always been, because sometimes we want people to be different. If it's going to be what it's always going to be, then this is going to be my reaction to it. And that goes right back to my initial point, just about even being in traffic. If it's going to be the same every day, I live in a city. The people are going to drive the same every day. It's going to be pretty much the same outcome every day. And so when I get in, sometimes I got to tell myself that in the morning. It's like, don't let this jerk you around. The people are going to be the same every day. They run red lights. They cut you off. It's the same thing every day. And what's so funny is that when I had that mindset, none of those things happen, right? So just get in front of your emotions, learn to regulate. Something that I do for emotions a lot is meditation. Is always important. In meditation, it's not about stopping your thoughts. It's about paying attention to what those thoughts are. When you start getting in front of that thinking and you're just like, why am I even thinking about that? You got to look at your thoughts as like a car going down the road. If they're going down the wrong road, you better learn how to make a left or learn how to make a right. Start thinking about ice cream or cookies or what you did on vacation a few months ago. Anything to turn your brain away from those things that are pulling you in one direction, right? Another thing I do is breath work. I love it because in breath work, I get completely lost. And there's tons of videos on YouTube. I do one with breath work with Sandy. It's a guy. I love that channel. And it's like 3 breaths in, hold it for 4 seconds, out. You would be amazed how you feel after doing that type of work. And another thing is yoga. That was my lifeline. When I was back in the day and I found yoga, I was like, can't nobody touch. I wasn't, because I'm kind of athletic, and the Western yoga is is very athletic, and I just loved it. I loved it because it also moved my physical body, but at the same time, there were short meditations throughout, depending on the teachers that you go to. But that was something I said was like a life changer, game changer for me when I sunk into that practice. So whatever you have to do to get yourself in that space, that's what you do. But to run around and have your emotions dragging you from one place to the next, raising your cortisol levels, wrecking your nervous system, and creating a negative experience for you in this life is not acceptable. Because how do you get to the point where you're able to relax and attract the things that you want to bring into your space if you're always caught up on how you feel that day, what's not feeling good, and then being dragged by it? Anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day. I got to do mommy duty. About to go grab this girl from band practice. And I can't wait to get back on here again. I just love, love, love connecting and sharing this information because it did so much for me and it helped me so much throughout my journey, my spiritual awakening journey, that all I want to do is share and pass on everything I can possibly think of to everybody else, because I know how bad I needed it, how bad I still need it, and I know how much having the right information changes your life. It's life-changing. Anyway, have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day.